to United Nations reports, violence against women and girls is one of the most prevalent human rights violations in the world. It knows no social, economic, or national boundaries. Worldwide, an estimated 1 in 3 women will experience physical or sexual abuse in her lifetime. Gender based violence undermines the health, dignity, security, and autonomy of its victims. Yet, it remains shrouded in a culture of silence. Victims of violence can suffer sexual and reproductive health consequences, including forced and unwanted pregnancies, unsafe abortions, traumatic fistula, sexually transmitted infections, including HIV, and even deaths. It is as a result of these that men are joining forces with women to fight this cankerworm to a standstill through statistics on causes, recommendations, and advocacy.
It's a passion for us because really our position is that real men protect children and women. Real men don't hurt children, don't hurt women. Real men protect them. Real men nurture them. The intention in setting up the movement Make Men Against Rape is to recruit a pool of men committed from all walks of life, committed to the protection of children and women and to helping women find their voices. You would find that in our society today, because of we live in a patriarchal society, and the tyranny of patriarchal culture and tradition has made it such that the men have been encouraged by the nuances to sexualize women, to see women as sex objects, to see women as tools of pleasure, instead of seeing women as fellow human beings and as partners. So you would find that this persists, this is encouraged by the tyranny of patriarchy, tradition, and culture. And you would also wonder why this has not been sorted. It can only be sorted when we embark on a behavior change communication. There must be deliberate and intentional strategy where people, behaviorists, behavior change specialists, are also recruited into the system so we can address this from the root, because this is endemic from the root. The boy is groomed to feel like a king. The boy is groomed not to know that there are responsibilities in taking care of doing some domestic chores. The girl is the one who everybody insists must go to the kitchen, must do the cooking, must wash the plates, must clean the house and all that. So in doing all of that, we are grooming them from little, okay, to feel like their heads and above the female gender. But for me again too, the female gender's aspiration is not about wanting equality, it's about wanting equity. That there should be a level playing ground. They should be encouraged to also harness their potentials. So that's on one hand. Then you find that again, ignorance too, because I invite a lady out on a date. She has a meal of good fish and maybe a bottle of wine with me. I begin to feel a sense of entitlement, that having come out with me, it is consent. Okay? And that is the way the mind of the man in a patriarchy has been formed. So we have a lot of work to do. Government has done a lot of rhetoric during the lockdown when there was an incredible spike in the rates of sexual and gender-based violence. But that rhetoric is not backed by concrete action. So there's a yawning gap. It is for that reason that our initiative gave birth to Men Against Rape, in order to raise men who will say, real men protect women. We hold them in their hands, protect them, and make sure we stand against other rapists, other pedophiles. It's a lot of work to be done, and it's not a work to be done in city centers, hinterlands. There's a lot of ignorance. Then the women too need to also be empowered with knowledge, empowered with resources. Because I've treated cases where a father would violate his 2-year-old daughter, do terrible, unprintable things to her, and the mother of that house will not say nothing. Why won't she say nothing? She wants to keep it hush because she's financially vulnerable. She has never worked all her life. She's dependent 100% on the man. Okay? And society also says you are not to take your husband up with the police. Okay? So the society, the patriarchy system bullies the woman into submission, so she's suppressed. We want to help women find their voices. We want to also, beyond the idea of even finding a way to insist on justice when it happens, can we also nip it in the bud and stop it from happening? At least curb it, bring the number down. So a lot of talking with the men in the hinterlands. In the month of June or thereabout, we did a 1-week advocacy campaign, enlightenment. We were going round. We went to Utako Market, we went to the park, the garage, in the Utako Market area, and many transporters. And while we were having interaction, there was so much we learned, including these ones they call the Agberos, the guys who hang around those places, saying that if they ask women to, give them sex, and the women tighten their legs, they will definitely take it by force. And they feel it's nothing, okay? So there's so much work to do.
Nigerians, we like to make sometimes assumptions and say things that are not founded on empirical evidence. We decided to take a fresh bent to the issue of sexual and gender-based violence because everybody talks about it. So we wanted to found our project on empirical evidence and research. So that's why we went into the field to find out how much had been budgeted in these states to tackle and address issues of sexual and gender-based violence, not just what was put in the appropriation, how much exactly was released and utilized, and what were the results that we achieved. Whether they had value for money in the amounts that we had disbursed, whether they could have been put to better and alternative use, what were the policies in place, whether they have the good draft of policies and laws to support the investments they were making, and of course, the challenges, the gaps, and the mischiefs in the system, so that we can now use it as a basis for reform.
Talking about violence against women and girls, it's noted that 44% of women and girls aged between 15 and 49 have experienced one form of violence or the other. And 18.8% have experienced it in the last 12 months of the survey. So the data, that the statistics documents I've mentioned earlier, especially talking about the multiple indicator cluster survey, in the last 12 months before preceding the survey, that was the number in question. Looking at harmful practices in Adamawa, early marriage and teenage motherhood is an issue in Adamawa. So, but our findings shows that 44% of girls were married before they are 18, and 19.5% of them got married before they are 15. Also, 26.7% had given birth to a live child before they turned 18, and on a positive note, we noted that female genital mutilation / cutting, it's almost at 0% in the state.